Vin is probably the most recognizable character from the Cosmere in larger fantasy circles. While we Cosmere nerds love the dark struggle of Kaladin, the funny quips of Lightsong, or the hard determination of Dalinar, the wider fantasy community has mostly had one primary exposure to the Cosmere. And that exposure comes in the form of Mistborn. So how does one encapsulate and somehow explain the personality of Vin, the protagonist of this flagship Cosmere trilogy? Well, the only way I know how is to break it up into 4 primary characteristics and to take it from there, so that's what we'll be doing. We'll be looking at Vin and discussing some of the key parts of her character. From her anxiety around unfamiliar situations to her courage and loyalty to her friends. We'll cover the primary aspects of this character and try to understand what kind of character Vin really is. Anxiety. If you've read the Mistborn trilogy, you've likely picked up on Vin's extreme anxiety. And it's completely understandable why she suffers from these extremely anxious feelings. I like to think of Vin's early life like that of an alley rat. She would scurry along the streets, never drawing attention to herself, looking for the food or the means to which she could buy another day of survival. Vin wasn't physically strong or charismatic. The only real protection she had was her brother, Reen. So it's naturally understandable that her entire existence was based on staying hidden and seeking any opportunity she could get to ensure another day of life. This rough life resulted in the extreme anxiety and trust issues she faced when she first met Calcia and the crew. She's not sure if she can trust any of them and interacts with them in a way that always allows her some means of escape. This even continued into the 3rd book, where it was her anxiety and her instincts from a life on the streets that set the crew on the right path to defeat Ruin. For better or worse, Vin is almost defined by her anxiety. I don't hold it against her, and I'd frankly be surprised if she completely got over it somehow. It's something she deals with, and she doesn't let it control her. It's a part of her, and without it she wouldn't be the character we know and love today. Loyalty. Now, while Vin's anxiety is something she had all her life and later controlled and used to benefit her, there is another part of her personality that only came about later in her life. She also has an extreme sense of loyalty. You see, because of her rough life and the struggles she endured because of it, when she eventually found a group of kind-hearted people that she could genuinely trust, she clutched on with fierce determination. She'd never had a group of friends so close that she could consider them family before. She'd never had people she could laugh with or feel safe with before. She'd led such a rough and anxious life that spending the afternoon drinking and laughing with friends seemed impossible to her. But after finding that group of special close friends, Vin seems to have made it her mission to keep them safe. She's incredibly loyal and would follow her friends to the ends of the earth if it meant keeping them safe and whole. She would consider betraying any of her friends akin to killing them. In fact, she had to face this at the end of Well of Ascension. When Elend was bleeding out and she held the power of preservation, she had to choose between saving his life or saving the world. She knew that Elend wanted her to save his people. She knew that what he wanted was for his people to be safe more than he cared for his own safety. And only out of the extreme loyalty and love she felt for Elend could she consider saving his life to be a betrayal of his trust. So she did what she knew he wanted her to do. She let him die. Out of pure loyalty, she did something that would cause her a life of pain and regret, knowing it was what Elend wanted. It was the last thing in the world that she wanted to do, but out of loyalty, she did what he wanted her to do. Strength. Now, if you look deeper than the surface level anxiety she has and the deeper loyalty she feels towards her loved ones, there's another side to Vin. There is a side to Vin that allows her to be loyal to her friends despite her own feelings. There's a side to Vin that allowed her to take what was once debilitating anxiety and turn it into an instinct she could manipulate and use to her advantage. This side is her inner strength. Despite, or perhaps because of, living an incredibly difficult life on the streets at the hands of an abusive brother, Vin developed a strength within her that allowed her to face challenges head on. When Calcia found her and showed her she was a Mistborn, she didn't shy away, she embraced it. When Calcia died, she didn't fall apart and abandon the crew, she stood up and continued the fight he started. When Elend lay bleeding out at the Well of Ascension, she didn't immediately use her power to heal him. She did what she believed was the right thing. When Ruin threatened to end the world she knew and loved, she didn't cower and despair. She stood and fought. Vin has a deep inner strength to her that would put many other Cosmere characters to shame. How many characters could come from a rough life on the streets, overthrow an empire ruled by what is essentially a god, sacrifice the life of the person they loved, and then face down an all-powerful god bent on the destruction of the whole world? Very few characters could face all that and still stand firm. Vin may be one of the strongest Allomancers to have lived, but she was also one of the strongest characters, period. And that's something I'll stand by. Ruthless. Now, we've talked about all of Vin's qualities. Her anxiety that she's honed as a fine instinct, her fierce loyalty, her incredible strength. All very noble and useful traits. But when it comes to Vin, there's one final quality that truly encapsulates who she is. Of all her qualities, Vin is, above all, incredibly ruthless. When Vin fights, she doesn't pull punches or fight honorably. She doesn't give the opponent a fair shot or good odds. She fights dirty and will use every scrap of an advantage she can manage to obtain. Vin fights ruthlessly, and it's likely thanks to all of her previous attributes. Let me explain. Her anxiety from a life on the streets has taught her that you need to do what you must in order to survive. Your opponent won't go easy on you because you're fighting honorably. At the end of the day, it's not who's honorable, but who's willing to do what's necessary to ensure survival. She faces each fight as if it may be her last, so she puts every scrap of herself into the fight and becomes as ruthless as possible in order to win. Her loyalty gave her a reason to fight as ruthlessly as possible. On the streets, she fought for survival. She didn't fight for anyone but herself. Now, however, she has friends and loved ones. She has people she cares deeply about, so she fights for them. She fights to protect them. Her loyalty to her loved ones is another thing that allows her to fully utilize her ruthless abilities. And finally, her strength is what makes it possible. Vin has a deep inner strength that keeps her from giving up or giving in. She learned a long time ago that you can't give an inch to your opponent in a fight. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, you need to give it your all. It's easier said than done, of course, but she had to face odds greater than almost any other Cosmere character. She can't be ruthless if she cowers in fear or doubts herself. Her inner strength allows her to continue fighting tooth and nail despite overwhelming odds. At the end of the day, if I had to pick a word to describe Vin, it would be ruthless. She's brave and loyal, yes. She has strong instincts from her anxiety, yes. But it's her ruthlessness that stands above all. Vin is an incredibly complex character, and I could probably make an hour-long video just talking about her in more detail. I tried to encapsulate the essence of her personality here, however, and I think I did a fair job of it. Let me know what you think about Vin as a character in the comments below. Did I miss anything? Am I wrong about something? Feel free to call me out and we'll discuss it. Anyway, that's been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.